earth just happened? Welcome in to the Strike Zone podcast. I am Joe Hunk, and this is going to be very unique. I cannot promise that I will keep it together for the entire time as we go along tonight. I cannot promise we may go into the morning. I seriously, depending on how much you want to talk about it, then the Braves are our world champs, and it is the craziest and most unlikeliest championship run that I can remember, and it is amazing to watch. And share your stories. I want to hear stories. I want everybody to tell us, tell me, it's been 26 years. 26 years. I can remember exactly where I was, exactly where I was sitting, every single thing I can remember about the night the Braves won the World Series in 1995. I remember the one guy that got the hit, Tony Pena. Like I can remember everything that has happened, and to still sit here and to watch that take place tonight in Houston, I don't even know what to say. So I want to know who you were watching with. I want to know, heck, who were you watching with in 95 if you were alive when that took place? I was sitting beside my mom and my dad, and I'll never forget that. Let's get into some of these comments, because I'm telling you, if I start sharing more stories, I'm gone. Jeff says, "We did it, Joe. We actually did it. I cannot believe it." I will tell you that, and look, I'm on record for a lot of this stuff with the Strike Zone podcast. When the podcast started, it leaned Atlanta Braves heavy because of where we are in Nashville and how many Braves fans are in the area. And as the season kept going along and things continued to happen, it was something that's like, all right, Braves are going to get to the NLDS. We'll be happy with that. Then you see that matchup, and it's, whoa, hold up now. Braves are better than the Brewers. Braves can beat the Brewers, but then they got to play the Dodgers or the Giants in the NLCS, and I don't know. I don't know what they can do. I don't know if they can beat either one of those. And then you get the Braves to the World Series, and you're looking at this lineup, and you're not wanting to think that you were the better team all around. You were the better team. But as the series started playing out, you were just like looking around. It's very much like the Washington Nationals a few years ago. Just, you didn't expect it. It wasn't, hey, we were just happy to be in the playoffs after being 500, and then boom, you're in the World Series. Jason says, "Finally, my Braves get it done." Jeff also added that Max Fried pitched lights out. Man, look, that to me was absolutely the most terrifying thing about Game 6. And I know that when we were on 3HL, Brent asked me, how am I feeling about tonight? And I said, I'm terrified. I'm absolutely terrified. And the reason why I was terrified had everything to do with Max Fried, because he had gotten lit up against the Dodgers in his last start, against the Astros in his last start in the World Series. And to see him come out and from the very first pitch throwing outside the plate instead of inside to Jose Altuve, I knew, okay, he had 5 days to come up with a new strategy, and he's going with it. And it was amazing to see. And this may be a total DB thing to say, but I know that Jorge Soler is the World Series MVP. The real World Series MVP is Michael Brantley for stepping on Max Fried's ankle, because I don't know what he did when he stepped on his ankle, but that woke Max Fried up, because even though he went out with a different strategy, he was not executing. And then after Brantley stepped on his ankle, that was a different pitcher on the mound, and everything clicked, and we were just good to go. So Brett says, Joe Hunk, congratulations to you, my friend. Enjoy it. He says, Thomas says, congratulations to the Braves and all the huge Braves fans like Joe and Will. Yeah, see, that's another person. Look, I've at least been fortunate enough to be alive since the Braves have won the World Series. And I've got to experience that. I was 11 when the Braves won the World Series the last time. And Will has never gotten to see this. I mean, he's been a Braves fan his entire life. And to see the fact that this is the first one that he's getting to truly experience, this is even more special for him. I can tell you that I know it's been 26 years, but I can remember everything about the 95 playoffs. I can remember the NLDS opponent and what happened, the NLCS opponent, what happened, every single thing that happened in all 6 games in the World Series. I think the World Series recap video that they put out for each championship team, I think I've listened and watched that thing 600 times. And I can recite everything from that video. And I think that's going to be something, the same thing for Will whenever he looks back at this, is just how memorable this is, especially for him. Brian added in on YouTube, which, look, I guess I need to be a little formal. I'm Joe Hunk. This is the Strike Zone podcast. I mean, we've been going for about a good 10 minutes now, and haven't even said that. You can watch us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, all of those places. Okay, now I've gotten that out of the way. Let's continue. Brian says, Commissioner handing that trophy over and ran like a chump. Look, the only way it could have been more storybook for this is that the Braves would have won it in Game 5, so that they had to have it. He had to be there and present it in person at Truist Park after all the crap that they did, and the fact that they moved the All-Star game away from Georgia, and then we find out that where they moved it to has the exact same voter registration law. And that's the funniest part about this, is that the team that you took, this event that was going to help their city raise millions and millions of dollars, ends up being the one that you have to hand the World Series trophy over to. And I just absolutely love that. Clark says it was a total team effort. Without the best player in baseball in uniform, I met Hank Aaron in West Palm Beach as a youngster. Look, that is the one thing that I seriously wished that I could have done before he passed away, is meet Hank Aaron. I've been to his ballpark down in Mobile, which is where the Mobile Bay Bears play. I've been to and around his house. I've obviously been through the Braves Museum with all of the stuff. I have visited the 715 spot at Fulton County. I remember all of that stuff. And I never actually got to meet Hank Aaron. And I think that is probably one thing that I always wished that I could do was meet him, because he was at Braves games all the time. I just never got to see him. Tappan says that, Joe, it's past your bedtime. No, I will tell you. Actually, I'll share that at the end. I'll share that one at the end, because that one's probably going to make me cry. I was 2 when they won it last. That was what Thomas said. Look, and I at 11 years old, because it happened in 95. I was born in 84, and to see and to have that happen then, after they had missed it so many times. And I think that this year, the reason why it's so different is because we didn't expect this. Like, this was not supposed to be the team. Like, heck, a lot of people thought that it was a fluke that the Braves even made it to the NLCS last year. let alone getting back this year and then even getting to the World Series. So, again, no Soroka, no Marcell Ozuna, obviously no Acuna for half of the year. Then you lose Charlie Morton in game 1. Then you lose game 5 where Charlie Morton was supposed to get the start. And then that's not even counting all of the other stuff. I don't even know if I said Soroka, but Soroka wasn't even there. This is not supposed to be the team that wins the World Series. Like, it just isn't. The Braves are supposed to be a year away from even contending, not winning the World Championship tonight. They were supposed to be a year away from having all of the pieces, going into free agency and adding another pitcher or two, adding another bat. Because, again, look, this is where we're going to start talking about this. The DH is coming. I don't want to bring everybody down, but the middle of December is when the work stoppage is supposed to happen with Major League Baseball. Now, obviously, they've got like a month and a half to start the negotiations, but the designated hitter is going to be a part of baseball next year. Braves are going to need a DH, and Jorge Soler is the guy. We thought it was going to be Marcell Ozuna, but then he decided to do something stupid. Brett says, Joe, I hate to break it to you, but I was not alive the last time the Braves won it. No, I don't expect everybody to be. I mean, I have a lot of young friends. Look, we're talking about 26 years. There are way too many people that are in my life right now that are not 26 years old. First off, if you really want to feel bad, think about it. There are people, and Brett, I don't know how old you are, but there are 21-year-olds that have never even seen the Braves in the World Series. And us kids of the 90s lived on that. Like, again, I can recite every single opponent that the Atlanta Braves had from 1991 all the way to 1999. During that World Series stretch, I can name every single team and who they beat in their division series and who they beat in the LCS and all that. Like, I can remember every bit of it. There are 26-year-olds that may remember the Braves being in the World Series, but the only one they remember is when the Braves got swept by the Yankees in 99. Clark says, I hope we keep Jorge Soler and Rosario. And of course, we're not going to let Freddie Freeman go. We will open up our wallet and give him signed in good faith. That's the kind of person he is. Look, I think that there's going to be a deal done with Freeman and the Braves quickly. He wanted to wait until after the season. He wanted to either have it done before the season started or he wanted it to be done after the season is over with. He never wanted to do negotiations during the season. I do not think that there is a single way on earth Freddie Freeman is going to be wearing another uniform other than an Atlanta Brave uniform next year. There's just no way. There's no way this organization is going to let him walk. And personally, I don't think there's any way that he's going to come out and ask for ungodly amounts of money. Now, the Braves may do some smart things because the way that they have structured Ronald Acuna's contract and Ozzie Albies contracts, it's very light in the very beginning and it's very heavy later on. And I think that they could have it with Freddie Freeman where it's very heavy early on and very light towards the end. Just because that's trying to balance out the books. Brett says, Will Bolin called of Max Fried dominating tonight. No, he absolutely called it. I was terrified of Max Fried pitching, not because of the fact that it's Max Fried, but because of what he had done the past two outings. And there are just some times, and trust me, Braves fans, you know this, there are certain pitchers that once they hit that moment in their season, it just doesn't work. Chris Medlin was one of those pitchers. He had an amazing season back in 2012, but then last couple of starts, he didn't have it. Then you go into the wild card game, did okay. We know about the infield fly rule and Chipper Jones's error and all that sort of stuff, but still didn't pitch to his potential when the Braves lost. That happens. Do it pro met the USMT, whatever. I don't know how to say that because everyone that didn't believe you can go to bed now. Thomas said you called it and said he would be the most important player for them to win. No, I did say that. I go back to game 2 and I go back to the podcast that we did after game 2. And I remember saying Max Fried is the most important player on this team when it comes to it, because he's going to be pitching in game 5 or game 6. And if he makes the adjustments, the Braves will win the World Series. And if he doesn't, then the Braves are going to lose. And we got into a situation where that is exactly what took place. Don't forget, you can not only listen and watch across Zone TV, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube. If you miss any part of the celebration, because really this is all of us just hanging out tonight that are Braves fans, there is nothing formal going on here. Look, we can talk about the fact that Jorge Soler just hit one all the way to Dallas from Houston. And we can do every bit of that, but look, we're now just a bunch of Braves fans. Look, I still have a sweatshirt on in my house where the heater is running. I wasn't taking it off. I did every superstition that I knew. I have a Braves sweatshirt on. It's the one from the 2019 season. I had, not going to show you my undershirt, but it is the Wild Thing Ricky Vaughn baseballism shirt. I'm wearing that underneath the sweatshirt. I have, for Austin Riley. Now, I will show you this. These are, you can't see them too well, Stone Cold Steve Austin socks for Austin Riley. I have that on. Now, I also today, driving to work, started a new book, which was the Chipper Jones book. And in the book, we got to, and I just finished the chapter about the 95 World Series. Not saying that's connected, just saying it was a really nice time for me to be on that chapter today during, game 6 of this World Series. Let's see. Brett says, Joe, you and I talked about this Braves team almost every single day in the green room before 3HL. To see this come to fruition is amazing. And look, and that's, I think, for me and for this, it's one thing to be a fan of a team and to cover it and all this. But for many people in Tennessee, in Alabama, in Georgia, heck, even parts of Florida, because they don't really want to claim the Marlins or the Rays, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Kentucky's more Cincinnati Reds. But you're talking about the Southeast that have been Braves fans their entire lives. Yes, you follow other teams, you like other teams. But if you are over the age of 26, let's go with that. You've seen the Braves play on TBS. You saw the Braves and playing in Fulton County Stadium. Look, let's just be honest. The gods never wanted the Braves to win a World Series in Turner Field. Like, they just did it. That's why the Braves only played and won while they were at Turner Field. And that was just horrific. And then the moment they move out and they move to SunTrust, now Truist, that's when they finally make it back to the World Series. Turner Field never deserved to have a World Championship celebrated there. Truist does, and hopefully the Braves will get to do that. But and see, it has so hold on, Prometheus MT, there we go. Okay, so that's what he says. I was with those knuckleheads Smoltz and Maddox in 95. I'm so happy for tonight. And look, I agree, like, those Braves teams, and maybe we're seeing a kind of a mirror portion of this, but those Braves teams had your Maddox, had your Smoltz, had your Glavine, had your Steve Avery. They had those pitchers, and it was one of which that there was this young core group of pitchers that came up. Now, Maddox was added, but there was that core group. And with this Braves team, I think that we all can kind of possibly agree that they have found their new core. Fried, Ian Anderson, Soroka when he's healthy, and then you throw in your Charlie Morton, and then you add one more pitcher, and you have got a 5-man rotation that is deadly. And look, based on what he did in this World Series, Kyle Wright's going to get another opportunity to be that number 5 starter. He's going to get that opportunity in spring training because of what he did in Game 2 and what he did in Game 4. He's going to get that opportunity. So that's where this core group of Braves players are. And look, that's the great thing. Look, everybody knew when the Braves were doing the things that they were doing as far as trading away players and the deals that they were making, that there was going to be losing seasons. We all knew that. But to go from those losing seasons and bring in Acuna and bring in Ozzie Albies, and obviously Freddie Freeman was there through all of this, and now you're adding Ian Anderson and Fried and I mean, God, we forget about Sean Newcomb. I mean, he didn't pitch in the playoffs, but I mean, there's points and times in this that he was just absolutely outstanding. Clark says, I was born in 1963 and the Braves moved to Atlanta in 1966. My father and older brother listened to every game, and so did I. We got cable television in 1983, and I watched almost every single game since. Look, it was a family tradition. And I mean, it really, really was. You would watch Cubs games in the afternoons when you got home from school. Cubs games were on WGN, and then you would turn over and you would watch the Braves games at night. And it was like that for decades. And it was every single time it was like that. Now there was a point in time in the late 80s, the Braves were god awful. So bad. But then you go to everything that happened after that, and it was something that was really fun to watch, whether it was Terry Pendleton at third base, or if it was Chipper, or if it was Jeff Blauser and Rafael Belliard swapping in and out at shortstop, or Mark Lemke, or McGriff and Klesko and all the other Braves players that were first basemen, Sid Bream and Andres Galarraga and Brian Hunter and all those, like those were your 90s teams. And I think that now we're starting to get to that with these. Look, the best thing about the Braves winning tonight, outside of all of us people that have been through the crappy seasons, that have been through the horrible playoffs, that were there for how last year ended and in Game 7 of the NLCS, to how the year before that you got, Acuna's home run was the only bright spot in the playoffs, and you can go through. But to have all of that starting to take place, like, this is something that is extremely special, but it was designed for that to happen that way. And that's where you have to give it up to management. Prometheus says that that Freddie Freeman will retire as an Atlanta Braves. I honestly believe that is the case. I believe he will retire as a Brave. I truly, truly do. Marcus said the Astros cheated. Vols caught cheating. Not a coincidence. That's Brent's favorite team. Look, I'll give it up to Brent. And Brent, I hope you're watching. I really am. Because right as the game ended, he texted me congratulations. And he texted and said, just enjoy it. I know how special it is. And it really, really is. It's going to be very odd to go from the daily breakdowns that we were doing after every single game to no baseball. I mean, I'm still going to be playing MLB The Show. Add my PSN, Joe Hunk 27. We can get rolling. But it's still crazy, and it's going to be weird because you see this all the time. And what's great is there's so many Tennessee Titans fans that are also watching this, and you see everybody else's teams getting that national spotlight. You see every other team that are getting the montages, and every other team that's getting the slow motion videos, and people just drooling over how amazing your player is and their player is. But then when it happens to you, and you start to finally get that recognition, it's odd, but at the same time, you can't turn away. Like, I barely watch Sports Center. Like I may have it on after a game or something like that, but I'm going to watch it probably 4 or 5 times just to see them talking about the Braves winning the World Series. You know, I'm going to watch things that I normally haven't. There's going to be movies or videos that are put out and about this season and what Alex Anthopoulos does, and I'm going to watch them 60 times because it's just so unbelievable. Chuck says that not South Central Kentucky. South Central Kentucky are still Braves fans is what he says. See, and that's where I was kind of double checking because I know that a lot of Kentucky's so close to Cincinnati that I thought that they may go that way. Capsule 6 says, now to wait another 26 years, congratulations to the Braves and that organization. Let's hope it's not 26 years. And I'm trying to do the same thing and try not to do the same thing that will that you've seen a lot of other fan bases do, because they're going to say, and there's going to be fan bases that are going to say, we're going to be back next year. You know, again, I've just said this team's a year early. That it's not supposed to be the case. You can look at the Chiefs in the NFL. The Chiefs have went from Super Bowl champions from Super Bowl contenders to Super Bowl champions to the Super Bowl losers, now to a team that's barely 500. Like, it can happen pretty quickly. It's extremely hard to get here. And you just have to remember that. So every single time that you watch and you see this is 162 games plus 20 to 30 preseason games, spring training games. Plus, you have to win 11 postseason games. That's a lot of baseball, and it's very, very hard to do. And for the Braves to not only do it, but to only have one starter to really go past the 5th inning in doing so and having it in their bullpen. Do you not remember, heck, last year, 2 years ago, do you not remember how many people were bashing the Braves bullpen? Like think about that. We're 2 years removed from having one of the worst bullpens in baseball. The Braves were horrific, blowing leads left and right. I literally celebrated the moment that they DFA'd their closer. Like, he was the worst closer in baseball because he continued to blow leads left and right. And now the reason the Braves even won the championship was because of how amazing their closer is. Where are the night shift t-shirts? Somebody send me the link. I know they have to be out there. But these night shift t-shirts for all the Braves bullpen pitchers, I need it. I want to buy it because that is one of the biggest parts to how amazing this run is and was for the Atlanta Braves. Jeff says, I'm so happy for Brian Snitker as well. Brave lifer stuck around and finally earned what he deserved. He is the man. Look, I think that part of it, and I owe Snitker an apology because I truly thought that he was a transitional manager. I thought that after the Braves got rid of Freddie Gonzalez and they brought Snitker in, Snitker was going to be a guy that everybody watched go through the system, AA, AAA, third base coach, everything that he was for the Braves, and that he was just going to be the guy to get through the tough times and to get them into SunTrust or get them into the Truist Park. And then they were going to flip it and they were going to bring in another manager. I never thought that he would be the guy that would eventually do this. Look, don't forget, that guy right there is celebrating with his team. And at the exact same time, his son is right across the stadium because he just got beat. And I don't care who you are, but to have to beat your son to become a world champion in some form of fashion has to be very bittersweet. It really seriously does. As much as you are enjoying this, for it to be at your son's expense, it's got to hurt. And I can guarantee you, and I know that this is probably going to happen where there's no cameras around, but there's going to be a point in time where those two are going to be hugging underneath the stadium. And I can almost guarantee you that Brian Snitker is going to apologize for winning. He just is. Like, because you always want to see your kids succeed. But he just lost, and it was because of you and because of your team. Yeah, that's going to hurt. But at the same time, his son's probably excited for his dad because his son has seen how hard his dad has worked the entire time. It's a major catch-22 for Snicker. Capsule 6 says, Freddie with the last at bat home run. If he chooses not to return, goes down in Braves history for years to come. And the thing is, he almost did it the other night too. Braves were, even after the grand slam and the Astros tied it up at 4, Freddie even hit the home run to make it 5-4. If it wasn't Jorge Soler, then it was going to be Freddie Freeman for World Series MVP. And both men were deserving, but Jorge Soler, you have to remember, leadoff home run in game 1, first player to ever hit a home run to start a World Series. Go ahead home run in game 4. Go ahead home run in game 6. Look, I know I hyped Jorge Soler coming into this season, but I never thought that it was going to result in something like this where he was going to be named World Series MVP. I knew he could mash. I knew he was going to bring it. But at the same time, I did not realize that he was going to hit 2 of the most important home runs of the season. And it was amazing how he did it. Let me make sure I got to shoot out a tweet real fast for everybody that's been watching on Twitter. The strike, I'm doing this as we're going. The Strike Zone podcast is still celebrating the Braves World Series win. Come join. Sending that out on 104.5 The Zone's Twitter feed. Make sure that you give us a follow there as well. And let's continue to go through it. Rick says, was there at Fulton County Stadium way back then? Oh, I was there at Fulton County Stadium way back then for the worst of first and Sid Breen, the slowest man on earth. So happy for this team. Reminds me a lot of the 90s teams. Yeah, I remember going to Braves games, and I remember going as early as 1988, 1989. I didn't know the difference between good Braves teams and bad Braves teams. I was just, I always, and sounds crazy to say in 2021, I fell in love with Fulton County Stadium. I know now that it was a donut baseball stadium, cookie cutter that everybody had, that it was the same in St. Louis and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. And I get that, but I fell in love with that stadium as a kid. I honestly still wish that the Braves or that MLB The Show would put Fulton County Stadium on the game, because I would play there every single game just because I loved it so much. But I remember when the Braves got into first place all on their own for the first time, and it was 1991, and I remember being there because it was Game 3 of a 3-game series against the Cincinnati Reds. And I remember them getting the win and getting the sweep, and they stayed in first place for the rest of it. And I remember just how I grew up always thinking the Braves were amazing. Like, I was just like, oh, it was so weird for me in 1993 when the Braves didn't make the World Series for the first time, and it was Philadelphia and Toronto. And I was just like, so the Braves aren't in this? Well, so does the winner of this play Atlanta? Like, it never clicked with me. I just thought the Braves always made it to the World Series. And then in 97, when it was the Marlins, And for that team to make it, Robert on Twitter says, I'm not shocked that we won. I'm shocked that we shut them out at home. He also asked, how long did it take me to collect myself? Look, there's a reason that we did not start this stream immediately following the final out the way that we had the rest of the time. And I told you in 95 that when the Braves won there, I was sitting beside my mom and my dad, and we all celebrated. And I remember going to Atlanta that Christmas during Christmas break, and I remember looking in to Fulton County Stadium, and I remember being able to see, and I just mean just to see, the place where Marquise Grissom made the catch. And I thought I will never, ever forget that spot. Like, I can still, because it's still there, obviously. The outline of the field is still there. I remember when going to games at Turner Field, going and standing in that exact spot where Marquise Grissom made that catch. And just being like, this is where it happened. This is where the Braves won the World Series in 95. And I did that all the way up until the time that they moved out of Turner Field into Truist, as I always went to that spot. I always wished that they would have just put like an X or something there, and that's where Marquise Grissom made the catch. And so it was very special. Tonight, I mean, look at the time. If you are up and watching this live on Zone TV, the game ended, this is about 10:30, 10:45. When I get home every night, my son's already asleep. Like, he is. There'll be some nights where I'll walk in and he'll still be awake, or I'll get to read him a book and tell him goodnight, give him a kiss, tell him I love him. And he was asleep when I got home tonight. So I come in, I turn on the TV, I'm watching the game, and Braves are already up 6-0. And I'm just looking, I'm just staring at the score. And this was after I tweeted out that tonight was the night. It was after that. And so, I help my wife around the house in between innings and all this other stuff. And I come into my office, which is where I am now. And I start getting everything ready. And my wife had already told me good night. She was already, hey, I'm going to bed. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to watch the last 3 outs in the office. So I come in and I get into the office, and I'm sitting down, and Will Smith is coming out. And about that time, my door opens. And it was my son. He's not supposed to be awake right now. He's supposed to be asleep. And he looks at me and he's like, hey, Daddy. And I was like, hey, bud. I was like, come here. And he sat in my lap, and he's sick. He's been sick for the past couple of days, been running a fever, throwing up, that sort of stuff. So I was kind of just happy that he was asleep. And he comes and he sits on my knee, and he just starts watching the game. And it was the bottom of the 9th inning. And I'm sitting there, and all I could think about was, it's amazing that this is happening. It's 7-0. We knew it was over. But for me, the coolest part was getting to sit there and watch it with my son. And my wife is a stickler for making sure he goes back to bed if he wakes up. We want him to be sleeping in his bed, all that sort of stuff. And she walks in behind me, and she just looks at him, and she just goes, it was meant to be. And that was the coolest thing for me, was for him to be sitting on my leg and us watching those last 3 outs. And I was watching him more than I was watching anything else, because I know that is how I got hooked. And I remember watching the 91 series and everything that was going on and not knowing what was happening. And again, it's 10:30 at night. He's supposed to already be asleep, but it's one of those things that it was meant to be. It was meant for him to come in, to sit with me, and for me to watch my team. Like, no matter how many teams or whatever that I like, the Braves are my team. That is it. And to see him getting to watch it, and me and my wife and him, and we just sat there and we watched all 3 outs. And I remember in 95 when it happened, my dad would he jumped up and he pumped his fist, and I remember I was sitting on the couch and I remember looking and just going, they actually won. Like, they actually won the ball game. And it was so surprising to me that they won the baseball game. I was like, they seriously won the World Series, because I just remembered how many times they had let me down or failed or whatever it is. And so for my son to be able, who was asleep, to pick that moment of any time to come into my office, which he never walks into. I mean, normally the door's locked. And just look at me. And he didn't even say anything other, he just said, "Hey, Daddy." And then he just walked, and I said, "Hey, do you want to watch the game with me?" And he just nodded his head, yeah. And he just sat in my lap and he just started watching the TV. And it was one of those things that I think that I will remember that more than I will actually remember the last out. I think that I will remember him watching it more than I will remember the way that I felt watching it. And I don't know if he's going to remember it. I mean, he's 3 years old. He may vaguely remember it. I mean, in 91, I was 7. And so he's less than half of that. And so I don't know if he'll ever remember that. I don't know if in 20 years, if he sits back, if he's going to be like, "I remember watching that with you." Like, I don't know. But to get to experience that with him, that's the part that gets me. That's the part that I think that's the part that is so memorable. And see, my dad and I, for about 10 to 15 years, we didn't talk. We didn't have a relationship. We didn't have anything, and it was my choice. It was by my choice. And so the other night, Halloween, Game 5, we went trick-or-treating with my son, and we came back, and my dad and we've kind of started building the relationship after a long time. I mean, it's going on. I mean, it's not fully a year since him and I have been talking and all that sort of stuff. But to sit there and to watch Game 5 with my dad, the way that I did in 99, the way that I did in 96, the way that I did in 95, and 92, and 91, that was cool. That I really, really wanted Atlanta to win in Game 5 just because of that moment. because I knew that it would be one of those. I got to watch it with my dad. And so they lost. I mean, they did. They lost. But then to fast forward to tonight and to get to watch it with my son, that was special. That was cool. All right, let's get the comments. I told you I had to hold off on that story because, yeah. Let's get through all the porn stuff because that'd be really great. Rick said Freed was great tonight. He said he was exhausted, but man, he did great. No, and I am so happy for him because he is the true ace of the team. And to get into that situation and to basically just leave it on the field the way that you're supposed to when you're in there. I mean, I know that we keep referencing 95, but I mean, that's the last time the Braves won a championship. And to see to see him basically have his Tom Glavine moment, and dang it, I hate that so many people were already comparing it to Tom Glavine before the game even started. But for him to have that moment where he basically said, all I need is one, which is what Tom Glavine did. He walked in the dugout in Game 6 of 95 and just says, I just need one because they're not scoring any. And for Max Fried to pitch as well as he did is something almost as beautiful as the win itself, because that is the way that a number one pitcher should be. That is what your Max Scherzers did. That is what your Roger Clemens, your Randy Johnsons, your Kurt Schillings, Pedro Martinez is like those types of pitchers. That's what they did to prove that they were the number ones. And that itself was amazing. Rick says you got to bring Freddie back. And how about Swanson? Look, Dansby Swanson is a player that I know that I have a lot of people that have been on here and that have known me for years. I have gotten blasted so many times for Dansby Swanson and talking about how amazing of a person he is and how great he is for the Braves organization. I remember people talking to me about he needs to be traded. He needs to go. The Braves are never going to win a championship with him at shortstop. For him to get the last is assist, but for him to get the ball to hit to him and for it to be from Dansby to Freddie, guy that's been in the Braves organizations, both of them, and the fact that you're talking about the guy that grew up in Atlanta and grew up a Braves fan, for that to happen is great. And you have to remember, and this part doesn't, I don't think is going to click. And you got to remember how many Braves teams have went from 95 to now without getting a championship. Now, your Brian McCann's, he went and got a championship with Houston. Gary Sheffield got a championship with Miami, Florida, before he even came to Atlanta. Your Kevin Millwoods never got a championship. You can go through those 2000. Walt Weiss just got his first championship, and it was as a coach. Like, it wasn't even as a player. Walt Weiss just won his first championship. And he was playing on that Rockies team that played the Braves in 95 in the NLDS. Like, that is how long it has been. Your Brett Boones, they never got it. Your Dan Uglas, they never got a championship. Your was it Wander Franco? Like, Wander Franco never got a championship. It's those guys that went through the Braves organization that are a part of this legacy of this team. They never got the championships. Yes, you can look and go through the history of closers. Kimbrel eventually got his championship with Boston. But he didn't get one with Atlanta. Kerry Lichtenberg didn't get one with Atlanta. Like, Julio Franco, that's it. I said Wander Franco. I'm thinking of, I'm already on the Tampa Bay Rays again. But Julio Franco, that's right. Thanks, Tim. But Julio Franco, he never got a championship with the Braves. Andres Galarraga never won a championship. Like, think about how many Atlanta Braves teams there have been with all of these great players, and they never won a championship. Mark Teixeira, when he was with the Braves. Now, obviously, the Mark Teixeira trade is also the reason why the Braves sucked for so many years as well. But Mark Teixeira's never got a championship with Atlanta. Rafael Furcal never got a championship with Atlanta. That's pulling one out. That's a deep cut right there. Rafael Furcal. Like, these players that play with Atlanta that eventually got traded, like, those guys never did what this Braves team just did. Like, I can sit here and almost name, I can argue that I could probably name 90% of that 95 team. There may be somebody on there that I may miss just because he's, a middle relief pitcher, or he was a bench guy that didn't do much. But, these Braves players, there are kids right now. There are kids that are 7, 8, 9 years old, and they're going to treat that Braves team the same way that we treated those 90s teams. They're going to remember Austin Riley, and they're going to wear 27 for Austin Riley, just like I wore 27 for Fred McGriff. They're going to wear 5 for Freddie Freeman and 7 for Dansby Swanson. And there's going to be guys next baseball season in the spring. It's going to be freezing cold in Nashville. It's going to be freezing cold in Tennessee and Alabama and Georgia. But there's going to be kids that are going to be playing with beads around their neck because of Jacques Peterson. There are going to be players that are going to be playing baseball rocking number 14 because of Adam Duvall and Travis DeArno, and those, like, they're going to remember every single Braves player on this team. They're going to remember Ian Anderson, and they're going to want to be Max Fried. And guess what? These 10 and 11 and 12-year-olds, they love Will Smith, and they think of him as the real Will Smith. Think about that. They're not even thinking of Will Smith from Independence Day and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. To them, that's the real Will Smith. How old do you feel now? All right, let's go through these comments. Prometheus says that he was at Fulton County when Chief Nakahoma was there. Bro, I remember Chief Nakahoma. That head terrified me. The only reason the head terrified me, there was only one reason it did. It had nothing to do with Chief Nakahoma. What it had to do with was the boogeyman from the Ghostbusters cartoons, which was like one of the very first Ghostbusters episodes. Oh, I'm the boogeyman. Like that, not that one, not like WWE boogeyman. But like that guy, because it looked identical, had this really big head and this little tiny body. It was like a life-size bobblehead, which we didn't know what that was back in the 80s. But that guy was terrifying. I appreciate, I'm not going to go through all of the comments, but I appreciate everybody that put up with my tearjerker story about my son, because that got me. Jeff says it's been nice to watch Fried grow. I remember when he came in for the Cards game, when we got blown out and it was a disaster, and now he's the stud. It's been great to watch him grow. And Jeff, I remember Max Fried when he was with the Mississippi Braves. And I remember Ben, my friend Ben down in Montgomery that I used to work with, when the Braves came into town, the Mississippi Braves came in to play the Montgomery Biscuits, we wanted to be at every single game because the pitching rotation for that Mississippi Braves team was Max Fried, Ian Anderson, Mike Soroka, Kyle Wright, and I cannot remember who the other pitcher was. But it was all of the pitchers now that literally just helped the Braves win this World Series. And it was so cool to see them grow. And just like you said, to go from these kids that had such high expectations. Remember, Ian Anderson's still considered a rookie. Like, he's up for Rookie of the Year this year in Major League Baseball. Now, he's not going to win it, but he's up for Rookie of the Year. Like, that's just still how young he was, because he didn't get the full service time in 2020 because it was only a 60-game season. Yorkie says, that's my guy, talking about Dansby Swanson. Tim says, I absolutely love everyone on this team. And I think that's part of it. That the way that you know and you tell and you start paying attention to a championship team is when you start seeing them coming together as one. And I've played on teams that were god-awful, and we didn't even like talking to each other, and we didn't even like hanging out, and we didn't even like going to parties together. And then I've played on teams where I promise you, if you just looked at my friend wrong and looked at my teammate wrong, I was coming over the top with an elbow. It was just, it was one of those two. And I played on teams where every single player felt like a brother, and it didn't care about your background, and we didn't care about what part of town you came from or what part of the county you came from or what part of the state. It was a brotherhood. And that's what this Braves team became. And to think that they did this without Acuna, even though he was there and he traveled with the team and he got to experience everything and he's getting a ring, but to see how this team came together, that's the special part. And that is something that you just have to remember how special this is. It really, truly is special. I used to wait on him at Cabana when he was at Vanderbilt. Great guy. Look, so another true story with this is that 2015, I was living in Birmingham, which is Hoover is where the SEC championship is. And my wife and I went to every single Vanderbilt game because Kyle Wright was on the team, and him and his dad are my nephew's pitching coach. And so we went there because we were supporting him, and nobody else from the family could make it. And we lived like right down the street. So we kept going, and Dansby hits a home run. And I mean, it's a shot. And if you've ever watched the SEC championship or the SEC tournament in Hoover, it is unbelievable at how difficult that is. And he just hits a shot that goes into the parking lot. And I remember the couple of weeks later, him getting drafted number 1 overall and getting it done. And he basically just watched it on his phone. He was just like, oh, look at that. I'm getting drafted number 1 after we just, clinched to go to the World Series. And to see Dansby go from that spot to getting traded from Arizona to Atlanta, to coming up and basically being the poster child for these baby Braves teams, these local kids that everybody was. Because look, through the history of Jeff Francoeur, there's another one. He doesn't have a championship, but he probably does now because I think the broadcast team gets him. But, to go all the way to that and to get sent back down to Gwinnett and to not buckle and to come back a better player, Dansby is amazing for that. And to have, 27 home runs in the regular season is just an amazing game for him. Jeff says, my live stream has been interrupted. I apologize. Ricky says, Swanson was great tonight. No, he absolutely was. He had hard hit balls that didn't even drop tonight, and he did amazing. And finally, what a jolt by Soler. True story. I say true story a lot before I'm telling a real story. This one isn't going to make me cry because this one was great. Driving home tonight, I'm not going to tell you how I was paying attention to the game, but I'm paying attention to the game. And I'm having to do it on my phone. And there's a highway. I've talked about the highway before. Highway 64. It's exit 14 in Tennessee. It cuts across the Tennessee state line and it takes you to Fayetteville. But that spot is a dead spot. It's about 20 minutes of no signal whatsoever. So this past week or two, while we've been watching these games, I've been watching and going. And when I got out of the dead spot, I would just have to start the Braves game right there and then just fast forward through the commercials until I got caught up. So I'd have to stay off Twitter. I'm driving down the interstate and we are at exit 18. And continuing to drive and Solaire's up to bat. And I'm getting closer and closer to exit 14. And I just keep saying, I need to finish this inning. I just want to finish this inning. There's 2 outs. Let me just finish this inning and just see what happens. So I hit exit 14. As I'm hitting exit 14, there's 4 lanes of traffic, 5 if you count the turning lane. Look both ways. Nobody's coming. I go to turn. And yeah, I make it look like I'm driving a huge 18-wheeler, but I'm not if you're watching Zone TV. I make this big, huge turn, and as I am turning, that's when Solaire swung. And when he swung, I went, yes! And just lifted my hands and went, yes! Let go of the wheel. As I'm turning, the car starts to go straight towards the ditch. And I had to turn it to get it back on the road. Oh, that shot was so great. And then Dansby added his shot as well. I knew that tonight was different. Exit 14, Pulaski, it's exactly right. That's the way you get to Martin Methodist as well. Go right to go to Martin Methodist, go left to go to Fayetteville and Jack Daniels. And so when Dansby, I already started to feel kind of good after Solaire hit the home run. When Dansby hit it, I knew it was over. I knew this game was over. And the only reason I did was because of how well Max Fried was pitching. It had nothing to do with the offense. Max Fried was pitching that good that I knew that he wasn't going to give up 6 runs. I knew that Braves bullpen was not going to give up 6 runs. I knew they weren't going to give up 5 runs. Did I think it was going to be a shutout? No, because all it takes is one pitch right down the middle, and Maldonado can get a base hit, or Yuri Gurriel could do it, or Jose Altuve could get one. Matter of fact, Jose Altuve 1 for 4 tonight. I'm on Zone TV, so I can't do what I want to do, but boom, double birds to you, buddy. Braves kept you off the base pass, and they win the ball game. All right, it's midnight, okay? I got to get to bed. You guys got to get to bed. And I appreciate everybody. I cannot say this enough. I appreciate every single person that has watched the Strike Zone podcast this baseball season. Thank you so much. And I cannot wait for us to do this again next year and it be even better and more fun, and we'll be doing it in a full baseball season this time. And I cannot say thank you enough. Thank you for helping and being with me as I grew through this first season of this, from Vanderbilt making it to the College World Series, through the Braves and the trade deadline and everything. Just thank you so much. And I appreciate it. And I cannot wait until we're back doing the Strike Zone podcast again. That being said, tomorrow night, Hunk's Titans are 500, traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Rams in Sunday Night Football. Be right back here, 9 o'clock. We're going live. And yeah, we're going to do it without Derrick Henry, and they're going to have Von Miller. So we're going to see how fun this is going to be. All right, we're going to get you ready for the Titans. Thank you again. Thank you for letting me cry on this, because I honestly tried really hard not to, but too bad. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Have a good one, and thanks again. Oh, and to every single Braves hater, I'm just going to finish the stream. I'm on Zone TV doing this right here, because this is not going away.